So I wanted to include this. It was sitting here and I just thought, oh, it's so pretty. One of the reasons I wanted to include this was, again, reading and researching about frontal lighting. James Gurney, and he's got such a wonderful blog. And one of the things he said is that, oh, this is really, really good if you want to highlight a costume. And we see that again in that Manet picture of the little soldier boy. And we see it in James Gurney's work in Dinotopia. When he did that, he purposely included some of front lighting in some of his portrayals, because he wanted to show off what they were wearing and the pattern. And so because of that, this is a great thing to do for pattern. So again, this reminds me of the Matisse work that we did before. We did some investigations into how Matisse painted, and that use of pattern is really important. I found that just so fascinating that, Matisse, who used that pattern, you find other earlier examples where there he is and he's working in using frontal lighting on his models. And you think, oh yeah, that couldn't have been an accident. That has to be something that he's done on purpose. Okay, there's a shape there. So I'm going back between these two colors right now, between the blues and sometimes if I need to change things, I'm going to change it up. That green needs to be a bit darker up there. There, went too gray. There's pattern all over. Whoops. All over the background here. And so because of that, it's going to keep your eye moving. But the danger of it is to make sure that you want the main thing, which in this case is that flower. You want to make sure that it's standing out. Now the red in the flower, what's brilliant about this background is that red is picked up in some of those paisley shapes. But I'm going to just really gray it down. So I'm going to use a bit of that green that's sitting next to it and some white, and take from the puddle where I haven't messed it up. And it's a bit brighter. If I wanted it to brighten it up, I could pull this other red into there. And that's not quite as bright, but I do like that color better than just the tint. And I could pull in some Dairy Lid Yellow too. That's a nice rich tone, but it's still a tint. And I'm doing that on purpose because, I do want to make sure that it's not popping out. So it's important that it's in there because it's reminding us of all those colors. And I could have, another way of going at that, I just thought of another way to show you where I want it. If you want it light, but you want a prettier chroma, what you can do, I need to clean off my palette pretty soon here. What you can do is just glaze it in. So those shapes, there we go. So they're light, but then they have, they're not as flat. And there's a little, there's a chunk of paint there. There's a little red shape coming in here. And probably if I had, there we go. If I'd washed my brush better, that would have helped there. And this one in the picture, the temptation is to shoot it right off the page, and we don't want to do that because it's not good composition. So those little reds, and down here it's supposed to be lower, but I'm going to just move it up because I do want it in there. We're going to be talking later about something called equalization, and that's where you get little bits of color all over. And that's something, I'm adding a little bit more randomness here than actually the real pattern, because I do want to make sure that is coming in. You can see it's glazed. It's kind of see-through. The glazed color is better than that white. So here, we're going to I could wait till it dries, but if I try to put it on that shade that's there already, on that tint, I'm not going to get the brilliance as I do when I glaze it onto, you know, the canvas. This has a bit of a tint already in the canvas, but if I, you know, if I try to, if I put a glaze on paint, the paint shows through. So here, what I want it to be more of a clear tone. I like that color. That's quite nice. And you know, I can make some of this up too. Can add a little bit. Let's go back to some of those blue lines. There's also in this is a very nice neutral color that I have to mix up and use. So I'm going to put some of that in too. But I don't want that to be see-through, so we're just going to paint on top. We have that coming there. This part goes here. Just overall looking at the, you know, the pattern of it. And a lot of those lines, I'm changing just a little bit so that they're leading into the flower. That's one way I want to direct people's eyes. We have that. We could just put one there and then have it come here. Okay, that's going to be good. Let's work on some. So now that's, you know, it's coming along. Actually, I'm pretty happy with it so far. I want to work on the unpainted stuff now. So I do kind of like that background color, ochre. But, you know, I'm concerned that if I just use ochre and white, what's going to happen is that it really isn't going to separate too much from the flower. And this is, even with all this pattern in here and all this frontal lighting, what I want people to look at is the flower. And so that means that, you know, and I just grayed it out. And when you look at the original, that's what you're going to see is that little grayed out area anyways. So that actually works quite well. So I'm just going to come in and shape. And this is what's great also about doing this is that, you know, you can wipe off your brush here. This is just a soft flat. I can come in and I can cut the shape. And if I had a better brush in my hand, I probably can cut it better. Let's try this. This is a Princeton brush. This is a nice brush. Okay, here we go. So this is a little bit stiffer, so you just have a different control. So if you don't like something that's happening with your brushes, just change it. It's no big deal. You know, you end up so that you have a calligraphy with your brushes. You get a relationship with them. And when you start to work with them, you know right away know what works and what doesn't work. Okay, I didn't have any paint there on there, but let's just pull that down. All right, that's good. And again, you can see it's starting to really pull it together by painting those passages. It's a different type of painting for me. It's much more exacting than what I usually do, but I still want to keep it loose. So it's that little dance that you have between keeping things really, really loose and making sure that you've got enough information there. Okay. All right. Now on here, I do have some of that wasn't shaped very well. So I'm just going to cut that shape in. This is supposed to be one of those little leaves that you see. So let's just, they're funny. They're a funny shape in some ways. When you look at them, they're a little bit awkward. Kind of like that about it. And I love the colors of it, of this scarf. There's still some neutrals in the scarf that I haven't stuck in. And we'll see. I'm waiting for this part to dry because I don't like that because it's too sketchy, but it's it needs to dry before I do anything with it. All right. And here again, this shape is a little bit awkward, a little bit big. So by painting around it, I can finesse it and make it so that it's a more elegant shape. So back to my puddle. I'm going to keep the picture plane of this fairly flat. I could, I'm just looking at it going, no, what could I do? And that's typical when I paint, it's kind of like, oh, now what? What could we do? One of the things I could do on it is I could deepen it or lighten it as you go up with the light. I don't know. I have that idea, so let's try it. So what we're going to do is just introduce a bit of a turquoise. Still going to be fairly light. I still want it to be the right tone. I just, trying to look for maybe a shift. I'm going to put a little bit of a hint of that there so it doesn't look like I just didn't know how to mix the right color. Okay, so coming through. This brush works great, this angle one. It's a little bit stiffer. People have different preferences for brushes, and I know there's some teachers will tell you, oh no, you only can use this brush, and I've never told you guys that, because in my mind it's use whatever brush works for you. But there is a difference in brushes, and if you're using old brushes, cheap brushes, sometimes you can't get the control that you need with them, and then it's time to treat yourself to some new brushes. All right, so then come up here. Oh, that actually has a brown shape around it too. I'm going to introduce that. I just hadn't got to it yet, but we'll come back. So it's sort of that interplay one to the other. I can even, play a bit with a lighter, it's not even too much lighter, it's more warmer tone against that cooler tone. Make it a little bit more painterly. As it's coming here, before I had that kind of disappear, the background and the flower kind of disappeared off here, which I saw. But up here, I think I'm going to make sure that we can see it. And part of it is that placement of that lovely red, because that's why that was so important. All right, so here we go. Just pay attention to some of those edges. We have a little bit of a value shift here. If you've noticed, it's getting a little bit darker. I still haven't put that leaf up there. I forgot. That's my story. This is actually part of the petal, I think, that I forgot here. I'm going to come back in and paint that again. And I'm going to put some more lines. So you look at it, we've got paint on everything. That was our first job, to make sure that we had paint covering everything. I'm just going to take again from some of my green puddle, and let's put in some of these other shapes. Now, because it's white, I can kind of gray it out, give it a more of a lost and found painterly look. So nothing wrong with that. So it can soften some of those edges. There's a weird flower up here. I don't know. We'll see. There is this brown shape here. It's actually more brown without so much white in it. Want a little bit of white, but maybe not that much. Little touch. All right. Yeah, there we go. Some of this, and there is, and I have not put it in yet, and now it's dark. It's not as dark as it needs to be, but there is a shadow or a line and a leaf. Just reestablishing the shadow. In this case, the shadow is a line, so should really call it a line rather than a shadow. That makes more sense to me when I look at this. So I want this dark, so I'm mixing this already dark green with the red. So, and then maybe just a touch of the ochre, and there's not enough blue in it. If I put this blue in it, it's gonna make it quite a different green, but I think it'll work. There we go. That's the green I'm looking for. So a lot of that mixing I'm pulling in from other puddles that I've made. And this leaf is really kind of cool because there's some light on it. So let's make sure that we do that. So we have some here. And then this is a good anchor for here. And then when you get to this part, there's actually, I see white in that. Sometimes we go away from, I see a bluey white. Sometimes, you know, we're going, oh, we can't put white in it. You know, we've been taught not to use that. But sometimes it's the color you need. So that's what you're going to stick in there. It could even be whiter, I think. Let's see. All right. And that just shows some of the color that's coming up for this leaf here. There's a little bit. I can even take some of that into that yellow color down there is really what I want. So here, it's got a lot of paint build up there. So there we go. That's it. That's the color I want. And so it's repeated. That was that highlight I tried to stick in earlier, but it messed up. Oh, if you want to do a dark color, of course, you're going to wash your brush and wipe it clean. It's coming. Okay, I want some more. I'm going to throw some ultramarine blue in this. And just, you know, there's some things that are different than when I started. And I just want to kind of enhance them. It's not exactly like the setup. There's some things that I've changed, and you know, that's perfectly okay. That's what you can do. We're not robots. Here, how about if and this is where you can go, oh well, what if this shadow line that I have here, what if I changed it to be warm? I love the way this here, when you look, it has a jag in it. So I'm just going to kind of emphasize that because I think that's cool. Shows us form with the line. There's a little bit of darkness here. And this is here too. Just put a little bit of that core shadow that we see in there. Gotta come up here and kind of do some blending. It's too distracting. So, you know, if I'm going up there and that's all I'm seeing is that, then something needs to happen. Okay. This line I see behind it, although it's really dark, darker than what I've got. I started with that, and then it's like, nope, that wasn't quite right. So that's okay. You know, just change it. Change it as the painting evolves. You're going to evolve with it. You're going to say, nope, don't like that. Keep, you know, or maybe you go, oh, I like that. Keep that. Sometimes you have to go, I like it, but it's not working. So if it's not working, it's, you know, it's not working. So that sounds funny, but what I mean by that is sometimes you fall in love with something, but if the whole painting isn't working, sometimes it has to go. Maybe it's too distracting. I love how that shadow just connects there to the leaf. So I'm just going to put that in. All right. I know you're not looking at my setup. It is here in front of me, but if, you know, if you wanted to, you could actually have taken out that photo, because that's, you know, from, this is where I took that photo, and so that would help you. It's interesting because I'm watching a lot of artist demos lately, and the one thing people always want to see the setup, and then, you know, their comments are things like, oh, well, are you editing? And sometimes the artist says, no, I'm painting what I see. And I'm thinking, well, that's not really fair, because, you know, if you're a beginner, you it's a beginner question, isn't it? Are you editing? Because really, that's our job as artists, is always to edit, is always to change things, interpret things. So, you know, I'm looking at this and what I'm seeing, but, you know, first of all, I'm going to see it differently than you see it. I'm going to emphasize things differently than what you see and do. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually how it should be. Here, there's a bit of a dark flower up here that I totally took out. And this, oh, I should put in this, there's this lovely neutral kind of ochre brown color in here. Gray, it's like a gray ochre. Or that's what I'm seeing anyways. And that's a nice color to add in, because it kind of ties things together. And, you know, it's not in the picture, but how about if I just put a hint of it right there? The reason is because then it changes that edge. Take that there. This is kind of fun, because this is really becomes about brushwork. I put that black dot there. I kind of like it, but I don't know if it's really going to help or not. So let's just edit that again. Okay. Now this is also the time we're going to come back here, and I'm just going to take a look at this and decide, okay, are there things that need to change about it? In some ways, the flower is really quite lost in the picture, and quite frankly, I like that. So that's okay, but there can be, there's a few things that I can add. Whoops, I just painted the front of me. I am not wearing an apron today, which is not good. Here, just give me a second. So we're going to have to finish up soon then, so I can go wash. That's pretty funny. I have paint all over my clothes. Always, always, always. Okay. There, now. So as I said, there's some things there you can look at and go, okay, what do I need? We're in the finessing stage here. You know, this is a demo, so I kind of do them a certain time, and then, you know, I let them sit, and then I decide what I'm going to do with it, you know, decide if it needs more work. You know, I could just as easily have taken, doing this, I'm just darkening this up to a blue. I could have easily put a glaze in there too, but today I thought, oh, let's just paint thick onto thick. It gives it a different quality. And I quite like that. Okay, so let's see. This brush is wonderful to do edges with as well. Look at that. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so we put that. So now there's a color shift there, and let's maybe even just a little bit darker here. Some of this is getting a bit noisy in this section, so let's just simplify it. Where's my blue again? My puddles are getting so messy. Really, what I maybe should do is stop and clean off my palette, but I think we're almost done here, so I'm gonna force ahead. But you know, if you were looking at that and you think, okay, I'm gonna be doing quite a bit more painting, now would be the time to do that. But I think for our purposes today, it's going to be done pretty quick here. Okay, so now I'm just looking at those negative shapes. I'm every once in a while just, you know, at the edge here, just putting in a little bit more of a contrast. You see, as soon as I do that on that one, it's very subtle, but what's happening is that it just pushes it just a little bit more. And then I have to continue down here a bit, or it won't make sense. I'm going to just take some medium and just pull the color. Okay, I don't want that. I want that fairly smooth there. So I don't want the different paint strokes to call attention. All right, and I'm squinting at it as I'm painting it. So be laughing at me. With this red, how about if just had an idea if we took just a little bit thicker paint and just, you know, put a little bit thicker paint on some of those areas as well. Leaving some of that see-through stuff that we have there, but just being aware that, you know, if it's too different, the paint quality, if it's too different than other places, what's going to happen is that it's going to call attention to itself. And I don't want that to happen. I can leave it so that it, you know, gradually goes away there. That's okay. But it's just my eyes were being drawn to those areas. Now this little part here. So now, as I said, the final frontier here. And I should really clean off my palette a little bit. So let's do that. And this is one of those palettes that there are some of you were buying them from, where was it? From Home Sense. And, you know, they were like $6 or something. They're good palettes, but as you know, if you leave them, what happens is that they're really hard to clean. So I have some. I haven't used them for a while because I was being lazy and I was using my paper. Or I have a bigger palette when I paint big upstairs. And so it had been a long time. And yeah, they're hard to clean if you let the paint dry. And what you can do is just soak the paint. And because I'm just going to be using the white here. So we'll put it here. And I want a stiff brush for this because I want a lot of paint on it. All right, so... And we're just, you know, the background is kind of cool, so I do want this to be warmer. And again, this is a filbert. But I'm just going to come here and just put in a couple of those highlights that I see. Whoops. I said whoops because I was getting too fussy. It was getting too precious, and because of that, I didn't like my brush strokes. So as I'm doing this, I'm really trying to be aware of that. And, you know, I want to also think about, there's very limited light on this, but I do want to think about where are the lighter areas compared to the others. I don't want to go all the way around with this because that would just make it look stupid. And we don't want to do that. As I said before, the light in this is very, very limited. And because of that, our values are close. So that can be a bit of a challenge. That might be something that gives you a little, you know, pause for thought today. There's this lovely edge here. I tried to do it before, and I lost it. So let's put it, lost and found. I lost it. And now I found it. We're okay. And I'm putting this on fairly thick. That might not be your sensibilities. You might decide that you want it thinner. I just want to emphasize that dark part there. Okay, so then coming back again next with a smoother brush. So that's a soft one of the synthetics that I have. And I'm just going to work. This is just, I just threw in a little bit of ultramarine because I know that the ultramarine is going to go grayer. Well, maybe we want it to be brighter. So if we want it brighter, you pull in the phthalo. Look at already, so much brighter, but maybe what we can do is then put a purple. And you get a really nice purple with that mix. All right, so again, coming in once again. I keep working on those little petals because I don't like them. So, just paying attention to the edges here. Softening some of those edges. Pulling out one into, into that green. Doesn't bother me that that goes right in there. That's okay. If this is wet, this would be good too. Good. Look at that's been sitting for how long and it's still wet. Love it. And part of that is because of the thickness of paint that's on there. Part of that is because I'm painting live to you from the basement. And that's our air conditioning in work. Our expensive air conditioning. So we've been thankful for it. It's been so good. Okay, now there is this lovely shadow, and I tried to do this before, but I just need to enhance it a little bit. And so there are, just a few little funny areas in here. Actually, I haven't even put this one in. This is really fun. And so I'm just looking for some little parts to highlight. And you can, take that and kind of blend it if you wish. That got too dark. We went too dark there. So I just blending that in and then finishing off that stroke the way that I want it to. Let's see, we're almost done here, I think. There is a bit darker part just here. It's amazing how because those values are so close to each other, but just by doing that, just a, touch here and a touch there, you finesse it, and, the danger is doing too much, of course. Because what happens if you do too much? Well, then you've got to start, again and get into it right from, it's like starting over again. And so it's good to know when to stop. Like what I did right there. That was too dark. And I've lost some of that lightness there. So let's just put it back in. That's okay. We can do that. I love, again, that little red. We see that every once in a while in these petals. This is I think this is a Japanese peony. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop for now. Let's just, whoopsie, and that last stroke I didn't like. There we go. Some of these, I said before, they're darker, so let's just put some of that in. This one sits behind that one. There's a bit of a sort of knowing a bit about your petals and making sense of chaos, really, because when you look at them, there's so much going on in peonies. There's an artist I know who just lives down the block from me, actually. And she had a comment that her peonies are blooming, so it's time to, to paint them again. And then her other comment was every year they kick butt. They kick her butt because they are quite a hard thing to do. But anyways, so there it is, my frontal lighting peony painting. So I hope that you like that. I'm just sort of adding little bit, squinting and just going, yeah, what if we put just a touch there and a touch there? Maybe bring just something up there. So there we go. As I said, I haven't really decided if this is done, but that's the demo. It's probably long enough. And good luck. If you don't want to do your peony, as I said, the easiest way to do this is to take a flashlight, set up your still life in a dark room, take your flashlight, and then go from there. Anyways, there we go.